Good evening, folks. Welcome to Greater Pastor Ministries. I am your host, Julian Searles. Welcome to our YouTube broadcast. Today, I've decided that I am going to touch on Matthew chapter 24. A lot of false doctrine and false prophecy is going around, and I want to really get into it and show you something that we don't see. It is not what we think. So let's look at it together. Now it says here, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him building the temple. Jesus says, see not all these things. Verily I said, they shall be not be left here no stone upon another that shall be thrown down. So he's talking about the destruction of the temple, which happened in 70 AD. Right? Now let's start from here. And Jesus, I'm going to highlight it that we can see it. Jesus answered unto them, take heed. No. And let's start with this verse here. Let's come down. And he sat upon the mountain, which the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when shall it take? When shall the signs of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and then shall be famine and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All these is the beginning of sorrows. And then they shall deliver in to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. And the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And when therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, who readeth, let him understand. Then let them which is in Judah flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, nor on the Sabbath day. For then shall a great tribulation, such as not saints in the beginning of the world to, to this time, no, not ever shall be. And expect these days shall be shortened, and these days shall be shortened, shall no flesh be saved. But the elect say these days shall be shortened. And if any man shall say unto you, Lord, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For shall there rise up false Christ and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, in so much that, if it be possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And then he goes on, right? But there's a verse in here I want you to hold on to. This verse. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. I can put verse 34 up here. I want to press this and go to NIV. I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass or die, pass away, die, until these things have happened. Right? Now, I can speak straight. Why are people false prophesying that this time is the time of Matthew 24? Everything you read in Matthew 24 happened between 34 AD and 100 AD. Verse 34 tells you when these things will happen. Verse 24 tells you, where I said unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. That is, those who Jesus is talking to at that time will see the things you read in Matthew 24 happen before they die. This generation shall not pass means you will see these things before you die. This generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Is saying that what are we false prophesying the people in the church that these are the last days? These are things that can happen. We should not worry. We should not be fearful. These are the end times. Questions soon come. And this is the prophecy that Daniel being fulfilled. When Jesus said in Matthew 24, plain and simple, these will happen while the disciples are still alive. A lot of you are saying, but Tulane, you are false prophesying, okay? Here is the Bible. Here is verse 34. Here it is. I'll put it in Microsoft Word. And I'm going to make it big that you can see it. It's exactly the same verse. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to go to the Bible. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it right underneath there. And I'm going to make it very big that you can see it's the same verse. This generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Why are you still telling your church folks that the time of what Daniel prophesied is being fulfilled? It is not being fulfilled. All these things you read in Matthew 24 already happened between 35 AD and 100 AD. The apostles and disciples were alive when these things happened. For Jesus said in verse 34, you should not pass, you will not die until these things are fulfilled. So let's go back a little bit to history and let's talk about these things. Right? And I am going to help you to understand some things, right? So here's the thing. Wars and rumors and wars are things that happen all through the Old Testament and in the New Testament of our time. Wars and rumors on Mars, nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdoms, are things that happen before Jesus was born, after Jesus was born. This is not to tell you, oh, the end times, these can happen, and when we see them, it's the end times. No. Three kings overthrew. Let's look at the Old Testament from the time of Abraham until the end of the book of Acts. Abraham had to rescue Lot because Sodom and Gomorrah was overtaken by kings and other nations nearby and captured, and they were taken captive. And Abraham went and freed them. According to Exodus chapter 1, The Pharaohs were concerned about the nations of Israel joining with other nations to rise up against them. That nation rising against nation. Then, as Israel entered the promised land, many nations feared them and prepared to go to war with them. That's wars and rulers of wars. And that's king nation rising up against nation. And when he said in verse 7, and there shall be famine and pestilence and earthquakes in many places. Whenever there's war, you got a problem with the food supply. With the exception of Ukraine, Ukraine is special. Ukraine real special. Ukraine is so special. Let me talk about the Palestinian and the Israeli-Palestinian war. A lot of people are not getting things to eat. The Palestinians in refugee camps are not getting things to eat. A lot of things on Facebook are reaching out to you and telling you about that. A lot of things are telling you about that. And therefore, according to verse 6 and 7, that's what's happening. In the Israeli-Palestinian war, the refugees, the Palestinians in camp, in refugee camp, are not getting fed properly. That's a form of famine. And if you leave their bodies out, insects and all these things just come and does try to feast on their bodies. Therefore, that the pestilence. And then we got earthquakes in many places. For those who live in West Indies, Kingdom Jenny just erupted and we had a 0.6 magnitude earthquake deep under the Caribbean Sea. Now, why do you think that Jesus mentioned all these things to the disciples? I'm going to give you the answer. Let's go to Acts chapter 1. And when they therefore came together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, when wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel? Wilt thou at this time restore the kingdom of Israel? Let me get a blank page. Let me paste this there for you. Let me make it big enough because I want you to see it. When they therefore were come together, asked of him, saying, Lord, will you at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel? Let me get it in another version for you that you can read it. Let me get it in NIV for you. So when they met together, asked him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom of Israel? So why you think that they were told Matthew 24? Because mentally they were looking at Jesus restoring Israel as a nation, as a kingdom, and Israel having their own government, their own laws, and able to defend themselves. And it was not the time. Jesus will prepare the disciples and the people of Israel in part for what was to happen to them between 35 AD and 100 AD. That is why he says in verse 34, very telling you that generation will not pass to all these things to be fulfilled. So when the last disciple died, it's when the last thing in Matthew 24 took place. And there are things that he was tended to prepare for. When they decide they are going to take over, people use this verse, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Now we take this to mean, and this is why we mistake and misuse these passages, because the problem with our translators is that they put everything together as they feel like, and you don't know the stage in the end. What end is they talking about? Just hold a minute. Okay, so I started to go through this verse, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, the inhabitants of the earth, for a witness, a testimony unto all nations, which means foreign nations not worshiping the true God, pagan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then shall the end come. And we take this verse and we use this verse to say that Matthew 24 is happening today. No, it was not happening. There's not saying it's not happening today. Yes, the gospel of the kingdom is being preached all over the world. But what kind of gospel? A gospel that looks like it has a form of godliness, but there's no power of God in it. That is not this verse 14 gospel that is being preached throughout the world. And you all can get vexed in me. Get vexed in me. We have continued from 380 to now to preach the Roman Catholic gospel to a God they named Jesus. Here's the question I got for you. All the other people that worship all other false gods, as we call them, their gods got names. We got Buddha, Confucius, all sorts of names. Selassie, Allah. When it comes to the gospel God, we don't call him by his name. We call him God. Look, our God name is Yahweh. His son name is Yahshua. Why don't we call him by his name? If I were to see my friend Mark, I say, Mark, how are you? Mark knows my voice. Mark knows his name. And when I call on Mark, because Mark knows my voice, Mark will give me attention. But if I don't call Mark by Mark's name, I say, hey, you! Everybody man Jack might ignore me. Every man Jack may look at me. If I say, hey, you. But on the Mark, and Mark knows me, Mark will turn. Yes, Chulane, what you want? Chulane, what confusing me about? That's a friend of mine. Why don't we call him Yahweh? Why we call him God? God is generic. God is a generic name. Anybody or anything could be God. But the true God I am, name is Yahweh, and we don't call him by his name. How you expect you to answer? And you don't call him by his name. So even although we are saved by faith, by grace through faith, not by works, yet any man could boast. We are not preaching the gospel of the kingdom. We are preaching the Roman Catholic gospel, which is a mixture of the gospel of the kingdom with other things to make it have a look, but ain't the real thing. Because we don't say Yahweh, we say God. We don't preach the things that we are taught because we got a Bible that was given to us. I use it like able to speak to you because there's truth in it. But if Jesus said in verse 34, that them who were alive and he was speaking to will see all these things before them die, then did the gospel end when they die. The good news of salvation of Yahweh said Yahshua to die for mankind have not ended, but we got the false church and the true church went together, and because we learn from the false church, there are a lot of things that we can't practice and sing. We don't say Yahweh and Yahshua. We don't say Jesus. We say Jesus and God. And yet we know there were many men who knew Jesus. And there are many gods. And when it says, let them which be in Jerusalem flee to the mountains, let him which is on the housetop not come down and take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes, and warn to them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days. Pray that when these things happen, they don't happen in the winter, nor on the Sabbath day. Nor the part neither on the Sabbath day is an add-on. It is real, but pray that your flight be not in winter, because Israel experienced a winter, and trust me, he say, don't. You ain't got to run to the mountains. You ain't got to run to places to get away from the enemy who's come to overtake your nation. And that is what happened in 70 AD. In 70 AD, when Rome decided, all right, Israel, we ain't continuing with this no more. We're not going to bow down and worship we. They went and they were armies to overtake Jerusalem. And those in Jerusalem who didn't fight back ran to the hills and had to left everything. Pregnant women had problems running. Women with children had problems running that were nursing because they had to take the child with them. One and then I with child and then I give suck on those days. It was a burden. Some did make it, some did not. And then those who were captured went through some things that they never went through before. Right? Right? And these are things we read about here. And then it comes down those. All of those are from verse 17 to verse 24. And then he said in verse 34, these things that happen in your time. Right? Good. He ain't talking about the rapture. He let you know, stop worrying about when God comes. Because just like just like in the day, no man nobody they know. No, don't know they know. Nobody ain't know. When I coming back. Everything gonna be normal. You gonna be the field eating. You gonna be the field drinking. You can read some of it there, right? This part is explains to us. Nowhere in this part did it say that there gonna be war and rumors of wars. Wrong part in this part did it say that we gonna be suffering, prison get blown up. He's trying to tell you life gonna be normal. And if you really study history of the world and history of the Old Testament, the Old Testament lived in a time of war. You don't understand it. Nations rose up against nations, overtook nations and ruled the nations. You had the Babylonians, you had the Egyptians ruling, then the Babylonians, then the Medes and Persians, then you had the Greek, then the Greco-Roman Empire. Now you got the Roman Empire through the Catholic Church. These are things that happened. Hold a minute. As I was saying, the things that Jesus was preparing them for in Matthew 24 is to stop with this mental thought that I can restore Israel as a kingdom now. First thing. Get your mind back to life as it was before I came, where you are under the threat of nations rising up against you all, and all these things that are happening. What you read in Genesis chapter 24 is no future prophecy. When God gonna come, nobody knows. Two gonna be together and people gonna be together and get caught up. Yes, that is for when God come. But what you're trying to predict when he says here, we find the verse 36. But of that day all knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Why are you trying to predict when God gonna come? If the angels don't know, if Jesus don't know, only Father know, why are you trying to predict when Christ is coming? No one knows the time and the hour. He says this in Matthew 24. He also to tell them again in Acts chapter 1. Right? No man knows the time and hour. Right? He says, it's Lord, will thou at that time restore again? Lord, when will thou at this time restore again? He said, it is not for you to know the times or the season which the Father hath put in his own power. He says, look, when they therefore come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, will thou at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel? He said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. Jesus said on more than one occasion, the matter is in the hands of his Father. Let me show you these verses here. Here are the verses. The answer in Acts 1, the answer in Matthew 24, and he says, no man knows the time and the hour, or the time or the season, which my Father knows. So, why? Well, I already tell you all Pastor Haggai is a false prophet. He prophesied several times between 1991 and now that the red heifer entering Israel is the site of the third temple. There's already been a third temple built. Let me tell you three temples. Let me get all three temples. Solomon Temple, the second temple was built with Sambas and then the Herod Temple. That's three temples. If you build back the temple or repair the temple, the second was built back and repair, the third was built back and repair. That's the third temple. So what third temple you're looking for? So in this short, sweet video, Matthew 24 has nothing to do with our time. It has to do with the time of the apostles. Because he says straight unto us, to them, Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things are fulfilled. So Jesus was not speaking about things that are happening in our time. There are things in there which he tries to tell them, when God comes, these things will happen. But what you care, but nobody don't know. He says, no man. He says, but of that day and hour, no man. No, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. He says so in Matthew 24, verse 36. And he also says that in Acts chapter 1, verse 7, it's not for you to know the time or the season that my Father has put in his own power. Why are you telling people this is the time? No man knows the time and the hour. Matthew 24 was talking to them to get their mind, and even in Acts chapter 1, to get their mind fixed on this is how life can be for you from now on, and be prepared to preach the good news. The era you are in is called the era of the last days. According to Acts chapter 2. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel, and it shall come to pass in the last days, said God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh in the last days. So we ain't now getting the last days. We are in dispensation or the time period or the season of the last days. Then nothing to come. We already in it. God bless you in Jesus' name. Here is my contact information for my video. Call me, blister me. Who you feel like with me? Congratulate me. Contact me. Let me talk about Matthew 24. Let me stop getting about the place and telling people foolishness on Matthew 24. Matthew 24, verse 34, specifically says, and when and what and will happen. These things are happening before the disciples die, before their time, their generation pass. And we need to stop talking about it. God bless you in Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for watching our video. Leave a comment at the bottom of our video. If you like our video, press like, share our video with a friend or relative, subscribe to the channel, press this for notification. Thank you for watching Greener Pastor Ministry.